Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, episode 137.
I would tell them to go work for somebody for a year that's doing exactly what they think they want to do.
You're listening to the Grazing Grass Podcast, sharing information and stories of grass-based livestock production utilizing regenerative practices. I'm your host, Cal Hardage. You're growing more than grass. You're growing a healthier ecosystem to help your cattle thrive in their environment. You're growing your livelihood by increasing your carrying capacity and reducing your operating costs. You're growing stronger communities and a legacy to last generations. The grazing management decisions you make today impact everything from the soil beneath your feet to the community all around you. That's why the Noble Research Institute created their Essentials of Regenerative Grazing course to teach ranchers like you easy-to-follow techniques to quickly assess your forage production and infrastructure capacity in order to begin grazing more efficiently. Together, they can help you grow not only a healthier operation, but a legacy that lasts. Learn more on their website at noble.org/grazing. It's noble.org/grazing. On today's show, we have Tyler and Justin Waddington from Cascade Sheep and Cattle Company in Washington. We share about their journey. Actually, we reminisce about days gone by. Then we talk about their operation, what they're doing now. We get into the overgrazing section, and we talk about grazing and irrigated pastures. And how's that working? Then we wrap up with the famous 4 questions. It's a really good episode. I think you'll enjoy it. For 10 seconds about the farm, I don't really have anything to update, and I really don't want to complain about the lack of rain, so we're just going to move on. 10 seconds about the podcast. For those people who purchase shirts, thank you. I do realize, with shipping and everything, those shirts costs get high quickly. So I was thinking about it. If you like the artwork on those shirts, I added that to the Etsy store. You can download just the digital file and take it to a local print shop. I do support local. That's one reason we have a local homestead printing out our shirts for us right now. But if you would rather not spend that money for a shirt and you would just want to buy the artwork, take it in, get it printed, I have that up on the merch store as well. So you can just go Grazing Grass, click on merch, and be able to do that. I got to join Jared last week on Ag Stewart's Profitable Mindset series. I think I got that all right. Really good. Enjoyed it. I say really good. I did the speaking, so maybe not so good. I enjoyed it. I thought it went over good. That should be out in the near future on his channel, podcast, so you have to check that out. Also, one more thing about the podcast. It's really about Grazing Grass Insiders. We will be announcing the date for the October Grazing Grass Insiders Zoom meeting soon, probably next week, right here on this podcast. So that's coming up, and we're going to get those Zoom meetings started like I've been planning for way too long. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk to Tyler and Justin. Tyler and Justin, we want to welcome you to the Grazing Grass Podcast. We're excited you're here today.
Thanks for having us. I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah.
I put it off a little bit. We got really busy, and I'm glad we were finally able to pull this together.
Have farming, cattle, livestock, it's like that. At times you can't catch your tail, and other times you may have a little bit more time. I find a lot of times I'm too busy and I don't get to everything, but that's me. To get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your operation?
You go ahead first, Justin.
Well, we're basically second generation. Our dad started it back in the early 90s, and he's pretty much semi-retired now. Tyler and I run the everyday stuff. It's kind of a pretty even split somewhat. I kind of run the farming end of things mostly, and Tyler oversees more of the livestock side of things. we come together and help on quite a bit of stuff, though, of course, and discuss and talk about how we can make both of these things really integrate real well. But that's the day-to-day stuff. I kind of run the farming side of it, and Tyler kind of runs the livestock side of it.
Yeah, and so now my second oldest son came back to the farm last spring.
Oh,
So
yes.
the third generation's on the farm, and then he just had a little baby boy, so now the fourth generation's on the farm. So our grandfather started farming in the valley here, but he never was able to get a go of it on his own. Twice he
yes.
broke out on his own, and natural disasters wiped him out, which is funny because the one crop he lost was to a hailstorm, and that's the only time we've had a hailstorm that came in at that time of the year and wiped crops out in his valley.
Oh, wow.
He tried it, but he just ended up being a farm laborer his whole life. And then my dad was able to get going on it.
Yeah. Very good. Not that this is about me, but I was talking to my dad other day about my great-great-grandfather, and he went into the Depression and the Dust Bowl years with 40 sections of land out in West Texas. And he had a lot of stock in the market, and he finished it with 10 sections. And so he took a major hit, and then he passed away, and he had 10 kids, so everything gets divided up. You know how it works, but yeah, those
75% of the family farm.
yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting you bring that up. The farmer that my grandpa ended up working for the most time of the years. I remember visiting with him a couple of years ago, and he was really young during the Depression.
Oh, yes.
But he said that this valley was never hurting because the irrigation never stopped, and they grew a lot of spuds.
Oh,
and they
yes.
said they shipped spuds actually all over the world. He said they were shipping spuds into France, helping to support the French resistance. And they sent back a special boxcar that was dedicated to the farmers of the valley that used to be on display here.
Oh, yes.
But he said it was because of the irrigation. He said that the valley never stopped taking.
Oh, interesting. And that brings up a great question. Where are you all located?
Yakima Valley. We're central Washington, Yakima Valley.
Yeah. South Central.
South
Yeah.
Central. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I was about to ask, I'm not familiar with Washington. I was going to say, is that east or west? But I know west is rough land over there. Not too much farming going on over there is my belief. Now, I have not been to Washington, so.
So the Cascade Mountains split the state in half. So you got the west side, which is the evergreens and lots of rain, and Seattle, or the west side is more the coastal. And then you have us on the east side, which is more of a desert.
Oh, yes.
And we have an annual rainfall of about 7.5 inches right in there.
Oh,
So
yes.
without the irrigation project, this valley would dry up and blow away. There wouldn't be anything.
Actually, you should click on it. It's actually annual precipitation. Not just rainfall.
Right, annual precipitation.
Accumulation of snow and rain.
Oh, yes.
And so it is kind of funny because we can drive about an hour and a half and they'll get 40 inches of rain.
Oh, wow.
Over there in Seattle, there's one area that is actually what they call a protected rainforest. It's so much rain there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Peninsula.
That's very interesting. So you all mentioned your dad got started in the early 90s. Was he focused on the farming side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. We started with 18 acres of an old alfalfa field.
Oh, yeah.
And we picked up a PTO pump, and was that an old H tractor that had a hand crank on the front?
An old farm all
Oh,
age.
yes.
And hand line out there, and my brother and I, we were out there changing this. It's just one 32 joint 3-inch aluminum hand line, and that's the first summer that's what we started with. And my grandpa, and that tractor was dual purpose, so it ran the pump, and then we would unhook from it and hook up to the pipe trailer, and then pick up the hand line to take it back to the beginning of the field and lay it out. And my grandpa would drive that tractor while Justin and I loaded it and unloaded it, laid it out. and irrigated across. And so
Yeah.
that's what we first started with.
Because that first summer, I didn't have a driver's license yet. I'm the older brother. I'm 2.5 years older than Tyler. So Grandpa would drive us out to the field, and we'd change the hand line. And then my dad also picked up some custom work, a little bit of.
Oh, yeah.
We just had an old swather, a baler, and a harrow bed, and that's what he started with.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be possible today. There's no way you would start anywhere farming like that now. But 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, you could do that still. 35.
Yeah, that's
33
crazy
years
when
ago.
it's crazy when you start figuring how many years ago that was. Now, one thing that I think is interesting, so you both were back there working on your dad's farm, helping him. I grew up on a dairy. I have 2 siblings, and as soon as they could get away from the dairy, they took off running. And I don't think they've looked back yet. I left and came back. So I wasn't the smartest one, or I don't know. You can decide that. Why are you all there now? Did you all stay the whole time? Did you always know you wanted to be there?
No, we didn't.
Mhm.
Justin left. I was still, the summer I was 15, he left and he worked some other places. And then I left right a couple months before I turned 18. I left and he came back. He was just gone 2 winters, 2 different winters.
Yeah, probably about
yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. And so I didn't come back till I was 1 and then left again when I was 29 to work on some other ranches in Montana for a couple of years too. So yeah, we've had stints outside the farm.
Not really much outside of agriculture, though.
Well, that was my next question, Justin. Was it all
Yeah,
in
not
ag?
much.
Yeah.
Now I spent a few years off and on in welding shops, fabricating shops, machine shops, running some manual lathe, manual mills for a couple of years. And then when I was in Montana, in Miles City, Montana, I worked the winter there in a farm weld shop too.
Oh, yeah.
So I've done a lot of weld fabricating stuff like that. Yeah, but it ends up correlating.
Justin, good job on getting Tyler get that welding experience. That means he
Yeah,
can use the welding
absolutely.
to fix stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can make 2 pieces of metal stick together, but that's about as far as I would call it.
Well, that's about my ability. I can stick them together, and I guarantee it. When it breaks, I'll weld it again.
Yeah.
So when did y'all were farming? Y'all came home. Had the farm expanded at that time, so there was room for you all?
I think it was in the process of expanding. Yeah, it was by the Harry's place was first.
I was a tier. Uncle
Yeah.
Caleb was working here, and Uncle Ben. We had 2 uncles working here. And well, it's hard to nail all that down because my dad is a visionary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Always looking at
Yeah.
expanding, whether it's plausible or not at times. We passed up on some deals that we probably shouldn't have, took some deals that we shouldn't have, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, we're still floating, thanks be to the Lord. But so there's always been different types of expansions.
Oh, yeah.
Like we just expanded the sheep flock. So we're up to 800 ewes right now. So there's always some form of expanding, whether it's looking into different crops, different rotations, livestock endeavors. We did some of those wonderful pastured hogs one summer.
Oh, yes.
I thought I would listen to the advice of all these great regenerative guys that are diehard no-tillers. Boy, we don't till that soil. Anybody who does is they're a demon. But they run pigs, so that shouldn't be a big deal, right? They run a bunch of pastured pigs. Well, man, oh man, they could till up faster than a big John Deere tractor and a plow. Holy,
Yes.
that were crazy. Good eating, but
Oh, yeah.
thought that might not be the expansion we want right now.
Right. Yeah. I've said this for years on the podcast. I keep thinking I'm going to get a few hogs just to play with it, see how it is. But
Just keep thinking that. Just keep thinking that and keep it there.
yeah,
You know what's funny though? All of my kids have been heavily integrated, whether they wanted to or not.
oh, yeah. Right.
All the animals we've had, goats, miniature goats, and sheep, and chicken, and guineas, and ducks, and swans, whatever, and they come and go. The pigs have been their favorite. They're
Oh,
like
yes.
so funny. They have such a cute little personality. I hate saying that, but They do. They love to be scratched. They'll come when they get used to. They come running over, and they're like in your business. They have a very interesting character about those pigs, man. They are a hoot. And then they start running your guard dogs off from their dog food, and you hear the squalling going on out there, and they figure out where the dog food is. They are entertaining.
Yeah. Well, for me, the goats, I love the personality of goats and having them. I've just got a handful because I need to figure out how to make more money with them. But yeah, I love the goat's personality. Yeah. When did your dad add livestock to the operation?
That's a good question. I remember the cows
he bought those cows from.
Was it from Dale Meschke?
Dale Meschke. Yep.
So one of the farms, it's actually where we first started farming, where we expanded. Our first expansion, I was 17 when we started on the Yellow House. That was the first farm that we actually 200 some acres. An older gentleman was retiring. And when we started farming his ground, I think he kept the cows for maybe another year or two, and then we bought his cows. It was, I don't know, 40 cows or something. Back in the day up here in our valley, all the farmers had cows.
Oh, yeah.
If you farmed, you had cattle. If you drive around this valley, everywhere you see old little feedlots, old corrals, and I mean, they're everywhere you find, little feedlots of cow. Guy would have 40, 50 cows, 100 cows, 150, and they'd have a little silage, and we'd put up hay, and that was just the thing. Harvest the corn, put the cows on the corn stalks. But yeah, as time went on, I think, I don't know, the different types of farming, that kind of went by the wayside, but
we didn't have as much residue left over. The sugar beets were huge in this valley, and so at one time there was over 10,000, was it 10 to 14,000 sheep wintered in this valley too. Superior Farms had a big kill plant right here, 20 miles from our house, and then north of us they had one about 40 miles north of us too.
Up around Ellsburg,
But the beets and our winters are generally
pretty mild.
Really mild. Compare it to all around us. You can winter out pretty carefully. We could graze, hands down, without a doubt, year round in this valley, through the snow, whatever. Every now and then you'll run into a hiccup. The problem is when you're dealing with irrigated ground, it's expensive, and you're trying to pull a cash crop and a cash value out of it while still, grazing it some. And so you're constantly, just running into that whole dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to, just as a precursor for our listeners, we're going to dive more into that grazing and irrigation. I can't think of the right word, but that balance there, more in the overgrazing section, just a little bit. So your dad or actually the whole area really had more livestock long time ago. Yeah. You all kept up with the cattle. What are you all running now for cattle?
Well, we should actually probably go back a little bit, because when Dad bought those first cows, Dad, he started spending more time down at the sale yard.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad has a serious bug for auctions.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Does he love bargains?
What he thinks are bargains. Let's clarify what a bargain is. There's times he gets bargains, and other times he brings home a bargain.
Someone that may be similar to him. We sold out the dairy, and Dad loves auctions. And the stuff he would bring in, and he'd be like, well, in fact, it's still a few years ago, we did stalkers, just a handful. We'd never done stalkers before, so we were going to do it. And of course, Dad wants to buy them. So he goes up there and he buys this calf that it's black with a little white on it. So it's crossed up a little bit, but it had no ears, and he paid, I don't know, 20 cents for it. We put it out there, and it actually does pretty good. And we bought heifers because we hadn't done stalkers before, and we wanted a second out. We could breed them and sell them as bred.
Right.
Yeah. And we got to the point we decided it was time to sell those. Well, we didn't want to sell her with the group because we thought they'd just pull her off and knock her so hard. Yeah. So we kept her. And then along that time, of course, she got bred, and I was expanding my herd. So Dad convinced me a buyer. And as I think back, I didn't get much of a break on that heifer's price. I still have her in my herd, and actually she does a great job, but that bargain actually worked out. But we've got plenty of other stories that they didn't.
Those are the ones they always remember too. But my dad, he did. So one of his fields were when we were putting up a lot of hay. And we're stacking hay, bottom bales, top bales, and then we would cover the top stacks with little 2-string straw bales. So you have all this straw bale that we would throw off, and then if it damaged the top layer and the bottom layer of the little bale, the dairy didn't want it. Right. So he would buy these broken mouth cows and feed up this hay.
Yeah.
And so you're feeding them all this, borderline moldy hay. And I look back now and I just remember running around and you'd start calving in January.
Yeah.
So it's a mud hole here.
Yeah.
I'm looking around and think back like, it was just a norm. I just accepted it as a fact, like, hey, calving time, scouring time.
Yep.
I mean, hey, doesn't everybody have an old cow that prolapses?
Oh, yeah.
Well, calves, I thought this is, a normal thing, it's what I grew up with. And when I left and worked on some other ranches, and I realized, no, there was a word called culling. And they cull and sell them at the sale yard, and guys like my dad buy them.
Yeah. So they can find out what problems there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe they try to kill you. Yeah.
It worked in a way, though. I can't complain.
Well,
what else are you going to do when you're a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Keep them busy, keep busy.
Yeah. Actually, also, I just remembered that we really started in the cattle business, day-old Holstein bull calves.
Oh, man.
We raised a bunch of them.
Oh, yes. Now,
yeah,
I love some bottle calves. Not right now. The prices don't work out. But
yeah, we weren't huge in it, but we had probably 40 or 50 at a time.
That's enough to keep you busy.
Yeah,
that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, getting all those from Wheelers
and
Jay.
And my mom, she was a workhorse, man.
Oh, yes. North Dakota farm girl. She grew up. Yeah, you just did it. Whatever it was, you just went out and did it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No, Cal, you're going to get a lot more reminiscent here than actually what we're doing.
But I think it's great, just as I think about, we had a dairy, so we always had calves, and then I bottle fed calves. But Holstein steers, that's what I grew up on. That's what we ate all the time. And those bargain calves, I can remember I'd come in from work. I was working off the farm at the time. I'd come into the corral, see what Dad bought that day. So because I needed to ear notch them and tag them and get them ready.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we did bummer lambs at one point too when we were way back
12, 13.
Yeah, we had a bunch of little bummer lambs. Yeah, bottle fed lambs and raised them up too.
Got that one big Suffolk lamb.
Ooh, oh, he was
mean.
Yeah.
Oh, man, don't turn an eye away from him.
He whoop you.
Well,
yeah.
Have you always ran multiple species or dabbled in different species?
No, not really. No, I mean, sheep and cattle are pretty much it, but we definitely have not run them at the same time a lot. Yeah. Just here recently that we've been doing it quite a bit because we were into the sheep. I was telling you about raising the bummer lambs. That didn't last very long.
Just 2 summers.
About 2 summers, we had an old neighbor fella that was about retired. He still had a small band of sheep, and we'd help him and run our sheep with him through the winter. And then he passed away, and I think that kind of ended. I think that at that point is when we started raising bottle calves, and I got into the cow thing.
And then they moved.
Yeah, so we didn't start doing sheep again until, when did you buy sheep? When did you start that? 7 years ago?
No, it was 10.
So
I went down. I bought 3. About 3, and set a triplet, black Katahdin lambs.
Oh, yes.
And only one ended up surviving out of the deal. And I'm not sure why that didn't give me a warning. But from there, then I started building it. And I got up about 540 ewes. Then it peaked the prices. And it's like, you know what? I could cull way down to about 230, 250 and pay off all the note. So I culled, sold them all, put them in chunks, and the ewes were hot. And that was October, November, December in those areas. Just really did it, paid them all off. They were free and clear. And then, I was doing that on the side-ish, everything. And, we just got to talk, and all of us, you can't do stuff on the side anymore. In a way, if you want your business to flourish and to really come together right, and you've got to bring everything under the same umbrella. So I integrated my sheep into the farm, and we just went through and started integrating things and figure, you know what, if we're going to make it float, we're going to make it float together or not. And so now we're actually running the sheep and cattle together in different settings, like replacement heifers with the sheep. And then next part, I believe, where we're set up, we're probably going to run all the mother cows and all the main flock together, and then run replacement ewes and replacement heifers together is what I think we might end up running.
Oh, yeah.
So we're sitting there about 330 mother cows, 800 ewes, and then farming corn, wheat, barley, beans, like not soybeans, but like black beans.
Edibles.
Yeah.
You can't grow soybeans in our country. The weather is not conducive for it. They've tried several times, but soybeans they don't grow up here.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
I don't know if it's the humidity. I think
yeah.
that's kind of what we don't have the humidity that they like in the Midwest.
Colder nights generally too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We had a neighbor just try it again here, I think last year, a little 5-acre spot. And and I don't know if they could possibly develop bean for this area, but there's not enough interest and not enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then where you have to go with it. That's the one thing that we
Northern
with that part of it is trying to get cover crop. We played around a lot with no-tilling and things like that, and then finding crops that we can actually, plant canola, peas, any of these other things to get out of some of the rotations we're in. Then where do you take it? We don't have the locations, the market.
Right, you've got to have a market for it. Yeah.
They're too far away.
Yeah.
So
With the cattle and the sheep, I got this generic question I love to ask. You mentioned Katahdins a while ago. Is that the breed you're continuing with sheep, or what are you doing there? What are you doing with cattle?
Both of them, we have been working on composites. Katahdin, no, I don't care for the Katahdin as much. In a way, there is some influence. So ours are going to have actually a bit of Texel and Cheviot in their background.
Okay.
Ram, because being it irrigated, so you're playing around with these false environments. And so you go from we'll dry out really fast, and then we can be really wet, and trying not to graze when it's too wet, but you can't get around it half the time. But feet are always an issue.
Yeah.
And so Texel and Cheviots have exceptional feet, really good feet. Cheviot, and hands down, probably the best feet I have ever seen in any flock. So I had a foot rock, brought it in from a sale yard, or just bought a bunch of ewes from a guy that wanted dispersed to a sale yard, so I had to buy him that way. Well, I brought in foot rock, and I probably ended up, I've never dealt with it like that. So foot baths and all of this, and I was doctoring. I probably doctored close to 70% of the sheep that fall.
Oh,
And I'm sitting at about 320 ewes. I had 45 Cheviots, and I only doctored one out of all of them. Only one.
Oh,
and she was borderline. And so they're really hardy. They have really good parasite resistance. Texels are similar. And so we use that as some of our base
and meaty.
But yeah, they have a nice, thick, compact, and we sell into that. They're a smaller, moderate frame sheep. So they go into the ethnic markets really well. So crossing those with Dorpers have a little bit of white royal influence. Little white Dorper influence.
Was that early horn?
Kind of did that. Oh, actually, one of our really nice crosses, I ran a Barbados ram on some of my Texel influenced ewes, and I have a really nice set of ewe lambs out of that. And I ran a ram lamb out of him, a couple ram lambs a section. So right now we're going to be set up this winter with our replacement ute flock for rams. Really, that's the one mostly. And then we'll have our commercial, more or less our commercial ones, but really trying to hone in feet. To me, feet is one of the biggest things. For me.
Yeah.
And of course, parasite resisted, but that's not that hard to develop in a flock.
Yeah,
And then with the cows too, we've done a composite with our cattle.
But before we jump to cattle, let's talk just a little bit more about your sheep. You're crossing textile in there, and I know you just said it.
But yes, genetic.
So
Yes.
are you getting ewes that carry much wool, or are you able to breed that out?
You can breed that out pretty easily, especially depending on how woolly they are. Some of them are really strong bear pointed.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them, and that made a difference. I run a group of some different ram lambs multiple times in the beginning. And so even the half bloods, I made a huge mistake. I had a really nice white Dorper ewe that had a set of twins, and one was a ram lamb that was out Cheviot. And if Mary had a nap of maybe a half-inch wool across the back, and that was it. I only ran in 2 years. I should have kept that guy till he died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was an exceptional ram. He was everything you wanted. Really good ewe. But it just varies. I've got a couple half-blood Cheviot ewes out there that are 6 years old. I sheared them once when we were back shearing, and I haven't sheared them since. They'll have about 2-inch nap across the bottom, and that's it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're going to go into the replacement flock this year, and I'm hoping to have probably about 60, 80 ewes that are strictly for replacement rams. If they goes well, yeah.
So you mentioned replacement flock in your other flock. So you're using your replacement flock to raise your next generation.
Yes.
Is that correct?
And the rams are the things that is most important for me. Making sure you have a good ram, because those things, oh man, you miss cutting one of those ram lambs. By the time they're 3 months old, they've bred 70 ewes. It's, well, now I'm exaggerating.
But not by much. I had accidental lambing this year. I had 50 head of ewes lamb because I missed a ram lamb. And
it's crazy how fast and how much. And I don't think we've had a spring yet that we haven't had something pop, lambing in January, lambing in December. Like what's going on? That one, we missed that one guy. It's crazy how prolific those little turkeys
they are. I try and run them through the alley multiple times, and I've got spray paint. I'm marking them. Yeah, it's harder than you think it would be.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
I pulled in driveway. We kept 5 ram lambs. I pulled in driveway, I don't know, just a couple of days ago, and there's only 4 out there. I called Dad. I'm like, hey, we're missing a ram lamb. Well, we found him. He'd found the ewes. And it's a pretty good fence. I still don't know where he got out there, but we got him back where he's supposed to be. But it was kind of on us. We're in a little bit of a drought right now, and our water sources, we're watering out of ponds. We have some troughs set up to water that's feeding out of a pond, but they've actually quit feeding because the pond's gotten so low. And so we can only water in a few certain ponds. So I have way too many gates open and animals going too far. I like to keep them in one pasture and let pasture rest. Right now, I'm not doing a great job, so no one come visit my farm right now. But those ewes got across. They didn't get across. I opened the gate and let them across from the rams. That's my fault. I should never let them across one fence.
Yeah, the drought. That's one of those topics. We went through one this summer. They put us on. We were put on a 30% cut. We're on 6-day rotation and 6 days on, 3 days off. Yeah. So
65%.
Yep. So it was a little challenging. It worked out pretty good. We have good neighbors that we generally get away from. Yeah. But yeah, that's something that you can't get around, even with irrigation sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, just one of those things Mother Nature likes to throw at us, see if we can make it through.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to your cattle. What are you running with cattle, and how are you doing that?
Well, there we go.
Here we go. Yeah. When I left the farm, we were running about 300 cows, 330 cows, 300 cows. When I left them, I was 29. I moved out to Montana. And Justin was really dealing with a lot of that and buying bulls. And we were buying, we had actually a tad bit of the Sima Angus.
Oh, yeah.
Had no bit of that. That didn't last long.
It didn't, down in where we were, the irrigated ground, stubbly ground, a lot of flood irrigation in some of the areas too, for feet.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, most of our cows, like we were saying, my dad would buy and sell and trade. And so the core of our cow herd comes from Sailborn.
It's a trader.
Yeah.
It's a trader.
And so
we didn't keep heifers.
no, didn't keep heifers and
Bought replacements from wherever.
the year or two I came back, I was 31, 32, something like that. It was 15 years ago. And they had started retaining heifers. And then we built up. At one point, we had about 540 cows that we built up really quick too. And I came back and you were talking about expanding. My dad saw, this is right. You got to have enough cows now. And so there's another guy working full time with the cattle bin too. And so it was predominantly Angus. We were running some horn herder. My dad loved the Charolais bulls.
Oh, yes.
And I don't want to bash on anybody at all, but where we're at just with what we're doing, pink eye, we are always dealing with eyes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so any of those crosses, man, or you always knew you were going to have one cow killer that came
at
out,
least.
big calf, and it just, for what we were doing, we ended up going all back to just straight Angus bulls.
Oh, yeah.
And then my brother has been really kind to allow my mind to always wander. But what happened was we lost a bunch of acreage. Within 3 months, we had about 900 acres gone,
Oh, yeah.
800 acres. And it was just chunk after chunk after chunk within like a 3-month period, right before calving. So we ended up calving out like 500 cows in 80 acres and then pairing them out, trying to find pasture. And we had to figure out, we had to do something different. That's when we started converting our farm ground. Well, when you go into these areas that you no longer have big bodies of water, big old shade trees, old barns, old lean-tos for them to get in there in the heat. And we've hit triple digits for 14, 15 days in a row. I mean, that's not unheard of for us here. Now that is a little extreme, but our summers are
at least upper 90s, mid upper 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So you start moving these cows into this irrigated ground where no shade whatsoever. And you start seeing that Angus are not conducive to your region at all.
Oh, yeah.
Or how you're able to run them. So that's when I started, I was Barzone, South Pole. I started doing all this research, trying to find cows, something that is going to be more heat tolerant. Brahma, no thank you. And that's when I came across Jaime Elizondo.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, if you ever have a chance, that he is one of the most enjoyable, nice, kind, humble guys I have ever had the pleasure of learning from, getting to know, spend time with him. Great, great guy. But the Mashonas. So the original guy that had him in New Mexico, Weaver, I got to visiting with him, missed the sale of those cows by like a few months. And we ended up bringing up a Mashona bull after I went down to Katy, Texas. I brought one up from Oklahoma, from Hopping Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Down the road from me.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Sale yard guys right there, right?
Yeah.
Nice sale one. Yeah. And I got a ram lamb from them too at the same time.
Oh, yes.
So that's where we started our influence. And at first we thought we just wanted a quarter blood, and we chased that around a little bit. And looking back, we should have gone a little more aggressive to a higher percentage.
Oh, yes.
Or more. Trying to find the animal that hides that influence enough,
Right.
but yet still is very marketable. And that's the trouble.
Yeah, in the Northwest, especially up here, that, anything with a little bit of ear or swickness or anything like that gets beat up really badly.
Oh, yeah.
Where you get down in the southern area, that's pretty much of a norm.
Well, I think part of that too is, now the more I think about it, is they automatically assume it has a Holstein Jersey influence because it is so prevalent up here to have that kind of a cross. So automatically it's got something.
Or anything with horns automatically has Coriani.
Oh,
It's all roping steers, and a lot of the Mexicans up there. There's the Hispanic people. There's a lot of Coriani. Up here, you're going to see those are what people will assume.
It is,
Yeah.
But we have turned the corner quite nicely, I think. Finally, we've held some half-blood bulls, quarter-blood bulls. We have a lot of influence. We've rotated a few. We have one full-blood Mashona bull left right now that is really exceptional, really nice bull. Our heifers, we didn't breed very many because we brought in some. We incorporated the rest of my dad's cows, so we're like, we don't really need to breed heifers. So we sold really the heart of them. We had 15 left, and so it's like, let's throw them out the bull for 33 days, and we had 95% breed up.
Oh, so
and all of those are a percentage Mashona.
Oh, yes.
But they definitely, the heat, they handle the heat above and beyond. It is pretty impressive. Even a quarter blood, their body condition, they've done well. And then we've been selling direct now and expanding that's our website is Cascade Sheep and Cattle Company. And so we are selling direct sheep and
lamb and beef.
Yep, lamb and beef.
You find those Mashonas dress out pretty good, tender.
They are tender. They have good marbling. They have a nice dark meat. We just butchered out 3 animals and they had them cut, hung up, and those guys, there's a lot of grass-fed people that are doing all sorts of different things around here. And he's made the comment more than once that ours are finished. They're marbled good, are finished.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing to do is to get a good marbling and getting that good fat pocket on those tail heads and to notice that and see that. And no, they marble out good, and they do. They taste good.
Yep.
Oh, so was that air sheet. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That
Absolutely.
Bland. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the marbling on the fat on the tail head and stuff on a calf. How do you know your lambs are ready?
Oh,
That's
it's something I struggle with, so I hope you have an answer.
No.
It's a little difficult on some of them that have a little bit more of a wool.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of that is I've been doing it long enough to where now I just wait for them to just get, big enough.
Oh, yeah.
They're just a size, and I know they hit 6 to 8 months old, anywhere in there, 7, 8 months old, but they're pretty good because of also the breed in there. I know they're not too tall, so
right.
They're already stopped growing and they're just filling. And on some of those lambs, like if they don't have a lot of wool on them and they got a nice shorter hair, you can see that when they walk, you can see the sides of them back to their loin area. It starts to jiggle and move. And I know they're getting a nice layer on them.
Oh, yeah. I have the same problem when I look at myself in the mirror. So hope I'm not finished yet. It's been great talking to you all, but we better go ahead and move on to the overgrazing section, sponsored by Redmond. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient-dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. For the overgrazing section, let's dive a little bit more into grazing and irrigated property. So how are you all handling that? First, on your irrigation, we talked a little bit about it, but what's your irrigation look like now?
Well, most all of our irrigation is in some way sprinklers. It's either hand line, wheel lines, or actually anymore, the vast majority of our irrigation is under pivot.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's pivot irrigation. But we still have a little bit of flood irrigation, a couple of pastures that we've got gated pipe or dams and open ditches, that kind of thing. But mostly the irrigation is done with pumps and pivots, wheel line type thing.
Oh, yes. And how does that, well, maybe before I ask that question, let's just talk about what grazing looks like on your irrigated land, because you're also farming too. So you're not grazing everything. There's certain times stuff's farmed. So let's just talk about how that looks for grazing and for your farming.
So some of that, well, one thing also, also none of our irrigation is well. Well, we have a little tiny bit, but everything is an open ditch, and it's runoff, snow runoff from the mountains, the Cascade Mountains.
Oh, yes.
So it comes out of there, runs down through the river, diversion.
Big reservoirs.
Yep. And then big reservoirs that they'll open up halfway through the year at different stages. So we're not pumping out of agriculture wells.
Oh, yeah.
So, which I don't know if it really matters. I just thought I'd throw that out there for anyone listening. So, because it does change it. Because with an irrigation well, you're on your own schedule. But
Right.
water comes in and then goes out your window of irrigation with the system we're on. And then as for grazing practice, when we moved into this, I had already got, what's funny is we were doing a rotational grazing originally, and with our main herd of cows, which is just about 300, and we had a big giant flat, and I started cutting it up with electric fence. We move in, almost all of it was flood irrigated down there. So you would flood irrigate it, you would shut it off, got to where you need about 5-7 days where you want about that much to dry up. Make sure you dry up pretty good. You didn't walk them in your irrigation ditches, because 300 cows will destroy a wet irrigation ditch.
I imagine so, yeah.
And so we started cutting it up and figuring if I could have those cows in there 5 to 8-ish days, 9 days, get it as much of it grazed as possible, and then move them on to the next one, then fire up the irrigation. So that was the rotation we were doing. And at that time, I didn't realize, and it was working really well. And the last summer we had all of that, there was 3 of us that were kind of incorporating it with other stuff, but 2 of us really handling it, most of it in. And the grass was really good. And what I realized I was doing at the time, not until years later, was really a very strong, total grazing principle.
Oh, yeah.
We took everything, and very non-selected. And so the regrowth that we'd always come back into was extremely even, extreme high leaf to stem ratio, lush grass, boom, you hit it and you move on. And then when we had to go in and convert our farm ground, pivots and all of that, I thought, hey, I need to treat this better. And that's when we started getting into our rotational of like, be careful, take cap, bloom half. It did not work. It didn't work. And what you end up happening was more and more was like our plant spacings started getting a little bit bigger. Your residue starts covering up growing points, and the cows are eating more leaves. So you end up with more stem left over. Whatever grass. And if you don't,
or legumes, the clover.
You're not really generating as much photosynthesis as you'd like, because you have a lot of stem. And trying to figure out what's that good happy medium, you get a good graze, get a good return, get a proper rest. And that's when we started realizing we needed to incorporate at least sometime in the year a very total grazing. Take everything that we could, even everything back out, clear it up, and expose anything we needed to growing points. And so that was one of the biggest shifts and changes. We plateaued really on what we were able to run pairs per acre on our irrigated ground, and diminished a little bit until we got into that.
So would you say you do non-selective or total grazing 75% of the time, 60% of the time?
Yeah, I would say 60 to 70, depending on the year. There's quite a bit of our farm ground that we don't graze during the growing season. We'll graze it with crop residue or stockpile something. Season, you get rules, we'll stockpile some of that. Or the last 2 years, we have gone in and got some winter triticale, winter rye, like that, planted in the fall enough where we were able to do some grazing on it in the spring. And then turn the cash crop into that.
So does it end up that you're grazing every acre and farming some of it, or is there still some that's just farmed?
There's still some that is just farmed in a way. It's like trying to get something incorporated into it over a couple of year period. Some of them are more conducive because of the location of water, where we can use it in a growing season. There's a couple of our pieces that's where we're doing we'll be planting hopefully some more winter triticale and winter rye really soon here, where then we can graze through that, and then we'll end up disking that regrowth in and probably planting corn or something like that.
Honestly, though, I don't think there's any acreage that we farm that doesn't at some point have cattle across it.
Okay.
In a 1 year, even in the year.
At least every other year. At least every other year.
Yeah, at least.
Because, like you say, either some crop residue or a cover crop type setting that will graze on in the fall or early spring. But there's pretty much at one point about the only thing that we don't graze hard on, or at least every year, would be like a permanent alfalfa field.
Okay.
Everything else we have is either going to be a residue that we can graze on, or we'll plant something at some point that it'll probably get grazed through.
So Justin, I think you mentioned earlier that a lot of the farms, they mentioned earlier that, or at least somewhat, and now they're, and you guys are diverse. If you think about a farmer that's out there just growing crops, how would you approach them about introducing livestock, or should they introduce livestock?
I think everybody should introduce livestock. I think it's going to improve your soil health. It's another avenue for an income stream, whether as a farmer you own the cattle or you have somebody bring the cattle in and you graze your residues, or you plant something or allow them to plant something to graze in the spring. A lot of it is logistics. A big, huge thing is water. It's access to water. That is big, because the fencing deal is easy. I mean, putting up a temporary fence, and we see it. We do it here in the valley, and we see it a lot. You see it around a lot, that people put up temp fences all over. There's a lot of corn stalks get grazed in this country. I mean, that is a pretty standard thing. Some farmers don't care for it because they talk about either compaction is a big thing, and that is somewhat of an issue in our country, just because of the winters that we have. If they're wet and mild, you're going to have a lot of pocking, and I guess when I say pocking, it's hugging where they're, So that is definitely just something that you deal with. The other thing is, if you have enough cattle or at certain places, then, a farmer says, hey, you can have this piece, but you got 45 days. I need them out by, 1st of December or whatever. You get your cattle in, get it grazed, and get it off. But I guess that's what I would say, is that you can generally find somebody who's looking for some grazing. So even if you don't want to own the cattle, you can make money off of renting your residue or whatever off to somebody, and still get the benefits of having an animal come across your ground and still having a revenue stream.
Yeah, excellent there. I'm not familiar with irrigated ground. We just don't have it in our area. But I think it's akin to sheep, because I see all these beef cattle running here, and I'm like, everyone that's running beef cattle ought to have some sheep in there too.
Actually, I agree.
And
If you have any issues with compaction, get sheep because then you won't.
Oh, yeah.
Well, likely if you have issues with water too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can probably water 15 or 20 ewes to one cow during the winter. It's crazy. I've had them when we have decent snow on the ground.
There's no water.
I've had them not coming to a water peak for 3 and 4 days. And I started getting worried. Yeah. But to each his own. Every little thing has its up and down. Grazing and irrigated ground there's so many different challenges with it. And like a couple of them that you run into is fencing. You're rolling your fence over your fence, or you're rolling your wheel line or your irrigation over a fence and putting it back up. There's so many different things out there. We have drive over fences for our pivots that have springs in them.
Oh, yeah.
We actually put the first one Gallagher brought them in the United States, and we got the first one in as a trial basis for their show that was coming up. And I was really good friends with their rep in the Northwest. And so we put it in. He's like, okay, looks like it works. And he went to the show to sell it. We put a few of those in. They work really nice. The biggest challenge I see with irrigated ground is the irrigated ground is very similar to the really high quality Midwestern ground, because you have good enough rainfall, everybody can grow a really exceptional crop and they just pay more for it.
Oh,
So you're in that situation here. Dry land out around us is almost worthless. It's like,
oh, yeah.
nobody touches it. It's nothing. You're going to pay quadruple the price for irrigated ground here at least. Then you have your pump. I don't know. I think the other day we were figuring there's $280 an acre fixed cost. I think is what we were thinking.
Well, depending on, between 280 to 350.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Fixed cost per acre. So when you start looking at that and you start figuring, that's one of the reasons too, we expanded the sheep per acre. If you're willing to do the work, you can gross a lot of money per acre with sheep. And we bought some sheep that didn't lamb out right. So we turned out rams and we changed them to fall winter lambers on purpose. So now when we have the escaped ram, we don't really feel that bad because we planned it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It hitting some of those specific blight lands in that specific market in the Ramadan, the Easter, the Passover, the 2 Easters. That's the big money one right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what we have been, it's a thought my brother let me toy with my thoughts. And the thought that I'd had for the last few years is, how can we and we ran stoppers one summer that actually it worked out well. We just didn't expect the weight to be what it is, but they grazed well, and we saw the regrowth on our pasture the next spring was very different because we had hay it along. So how do you take stockers and lambs and make them a crop rotation? So where we're at with irrigated ground, we don't have much of a market for legumes except for alfalfa, really.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's not a true legume.
But it is, but you're out 5 years.
Yeah.
But you're not really doing your soil
No.
You're not breaking this cycle depending on these other, like the nematodes or the wireworm, right? That would break that cycle of our wireworm. So we kick peas, beans, we're kind of got back into them a little bit. So soybeans have not. So what do we do that gets out of the corn, canola, or we don't have canola either, corn, wheat rotation, or alfalfa? You're stuck in these 3 things. Well, if we can grow a very high clover, vetch, pea mix with some wheat grasses, annual rye, and you graze that for a whole summer with some stockers in your sheep or your whole sheep, that's kind of a cash crop that breaks your cycle, puts a ton of nutrients back in.
Oh, yeah.
Or we've grazed the sorghum, Sudans, and then we've also incorporated warm season perennials into some of our pieces that they take hold. But we're dealing with the kind of a false environment. Those we dry up and burn up pretty much by May. June 1st, this valley looks yellow from heat grass just burned up. And so when you add irrigation and our heat, we should be growing warm season perennials, but they're not really native here. So you're always playing around with this false environment. It's like, well, what do we do? How do we incorporate this? How do we utilize all of this growing season that we can't graze, but it's expensive ground. You don't want to just dump a bunch of cows on it and still utilize a cash crop that, isn't livestock. So it's this constant kind of a moving picture sometimes trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It goes back to logistics, just the amount of what crop you're growing, when does it go in, when does it come off on pasture. Now that brings me to the opposite of the question, or the converse of what I'd asked earlier. I said, are you all grazing every acre, even the acres you farm? Are you farming every acre, or do you have some that's just put into permanent pasture?
Yeah, there's absolutely permanent pasture. We've got at least 300 acres, not more. That's permanent pasture. That there is no crop taking off of it. It's cattle, 100%, or sheep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Gentlemen, it's getting close. We need to move to the famous four. But before we move there, is there anything that we didn't cover today that you're like, hey, I would like to have said that, but Cal just didn't ask it? So,
man, actually, there's so many things that we've chased down over the years. I don't know if I could hit on all of them. Different soil amendments we played around with on pasture and farm ground. Biochar. We use a lot of biochar right now in a mix, a sea salt biochar with a little soy meal and cracked corn, but I'm going to go to a crushed barley. And you have enough salt in there where they're just constantly getting a nice bit of that diet through the winter. And it really has made a huge difference for our cats.
Oh, yes.
And the sheep, actually been running on the sheep. And then we're going to probably put a 50-50 blend out for the cows this winter. Heavier on salt to make sure they're backed off enough.
And the biochar, where are you getting that?
So I get that through TerraChar, Phil Blom. He's actually down in your neck of the woods. I think he's in Missouri.
Oh,
but he has co-ops all over the place. So down south in Oregon, he has a place that produces the biochar for him, and we've got it up in tote sacks from him. Yeah.
Well, let's transition to our famous four questions, sponsored by Ken Cove Farm Fence. Ken Cove Farm Fence is a proud supporter of the Grazing Grass Podcast and grazers everywhere. At Ken Cove Farm Fence, they believe there's true value within the community of grazers and land stewards. The results that follow proper management and monitoring can change the very world around us. That's why Ken Cove is dedicated to providing an ever-expanding line of grazing products to make your chores easier and your land more abundant. Whether you're growing your own food on the homestead or grazing on thousands of acres, Ken Cove has everything you need to do it well. From reels to tumblewheels, polytwine to electric nets, water valves to water troughs, you'll find what you're looking for at Ken Cove. They carry brands like Speedrite, O'Brien's, Kiwi Tech, Strainrite, Job, and more. Ken Cove is proud to be part of your regenerative journey. Call them today or visit kencove.com, and be sure to follow them on social media and subscribe to the Ken Cove YouTube channel at Ken Cove Farm Fence for helpful how-to videos and new product releases. There's same four questions we ask of all of our guests. Our first question, what is your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
That would be me. Man, I'm going to throw out a really hard read that started me down a path of frustration.
Oh, yes.
And that is by Andre Boyson, the soil cancer. Oh, what is the third?
I know what book you're talking about because I was just looking at it other day.
I tell you, that's a hard read to struggle through some of it.
Soil, Grass, and Cancer.
There it is. That started me on this whole debacle research. I think I got that 10, 12 years ago. The other book, and it's not even about that I spend a lot of time in, is Weeds of the West.
Oh,
you know that big thick book and all the pictures. Man, I spent a lot of time in there. Like, what is this? What is this? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. We got that here now?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the Hell's Tubes. Yeah, those two. I think one that I really enjoyed, my brother, he read a little bit of it, watched some of the time, but the Johann Zeitzman's, that was a pretty interesting book. There's a lot of other ones I've hit here on and this and that, and they just didn't strike me as much, I guess. And I probably haven't read as many of them as I should have. I've gone to a lot of conferences over the years. Nicole
from New Zealand.
We had her out on the property.
Yeah, he was out here
She was
for
first
3
in New
days.
Zealand.
Oh,
She
yes.
was here and consulted on the property. Actually knew her quite well. Stayed with some close friends in Montana, and it was one of her main hubs. But yeah, I used to make sure to go to at least one conference every year, if not more. But yeah, anyways, those would be two books that
those are great resources there, and conferences are always wonderful. And then getting Nicole Masters there, that's just icing on top of it all. Our second question, and this one you both can answer, and we'll see how your answers compare. What is your favorite tool for the farm?
Wow. Well, I know what I would say. The one we have, I wish it was 3 times its size, our brush hog.
Oh,
I know that might work for me, but man, there's times when it's nice to just let those cows or sheep selectively graze a little bit, pick up something, give yourself a break, and then just come behind them and mow some of that thistle or Russian olives that's starting to peak up around here. You just mow it off.
Oh, yeah.
Mow it off, let it fall down on the ground, and return to the ground where it belongs. But I would probably say that's probably my favorite tool. If I wasn't working here, it would be a horse and a rope. Hands down. And down. I would rather be in a ramming pen than anything else. Yeah.
Well, my favorite tool is it's a combine. My favorite, it's a combine. Sorry, doesn't sound very grazing grassy, but mine's a combine.
Why though?
Why? Okay, so
important explanation.
We came from a very predominant earlier alfalfa. That's when we started farming. It was alfalfa, and at one point we were running 1,200 acres of irrigated alfalfa.
Oh, yes.
Almost 5 times.
4 and 5 times a year. So you were running 3 swathers, 2 rakes, 2 balers, a stacker,
a little bit of work,
multiple pieces of equipment, lots of labor.
Yeah.
And we've cut way back on that now, but
not enough labor actually at the time. So we were
just running ragged. We were running from May to October in irrigated, So in that time period, in the last 25 years, we have probably gone through $1 million worth of haying equipment. Buying it, using it up, replacing it, multiple pieces of equipment. In that same time period, we still have the same combine, same grain head, and same corn head that we purchased at an auction 25 years ago for about $50,000. So that same piece of equipment has combined thousands of acres of corn, wheat. We actually combined some peas with it years ago. Sunflowers, we did some sunflowers a few years. So for the amount of input, that combine is so far and above than the haying side of equipment. So yeah, that's, I guess when you come to the cash profit, combine hands down.
Well, you will not find haying equipment very high on my list. So
no, I agree.
Very good answers. Our third question: what would you tell someone just getting started?
Oh, in farming or in cattle, in grazing, in all of it, just if you're trying to do it full time, I guess it depends on where you're at. If you're just gonna get started, I'd tell you, really think about it really hard, because our area is definitely different. The competition, I mean, we're in this valley with the irrigation and with the climate. You've got, trees, you've got fruit, you've got grapes, you got wine grapes, you've got hops are huge in this valley.
Oh, yes.
So the competition for ground and the inputs are so astronomical that starting into it in our area is basically non-existent.
Oh, yeah.
So different areas, you're going to have different avenues of being able to start. But here, it's really, really tough. Yeah, trying to make a go of it right now, just starting into it. If it's a hobby and you have a good paying job,
Yeah, that's a big story.
you need to, or if you're that type of, if you're smart enough to have married, your wife is smarter than you and makes more money, then you can do that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, is it financially feasible? I don't know.
Yeah, the cost to get started is just so great if you're doing any kind of farming or equipment heavy.
Yeah.
Something, yeah. Tyler, what's your advice?
I would tell them to go work for somebody for a year that's doing exactly what they think they want to do.
Oh,
because that is the one thing in this whole journey.
Yeah.
Really, nobody whatever it is. In all the years, you talk to people, you meet them, you hear what they say they're doing, and then you go and you realize, number one, well, you're predominantly a consultant. You don't even really do this at home, or you're not pulling a paycheck from all these things that you're recommending.
Oh,
Like, how am I supposed to incorporate this? Like, you're talking $200 an acre of input you just recommended me. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Yes.
what am I supposed to do with this?
Throw that out the
Oh,
window.
make it. And like I was told one time, I said, so if I do some of this, what you're telling me is if you do some of this process, but I'm going to have something more stem involved than lead to stem ratio. And that's going to lower my quality of feed. If you're trying to take a little hay and cut it's got a head, so you cut it, and their response was, oh, your stems will be more nutritious. And I said, oh, great. Can I see that? Like,
Right.
oh, no, it hasn't, but it will. That's what will happen. Oh, well, great. Like, so where's your test site 2, 3, 4? Well,
Right.
no, but I'm just saying that's what will happen as you're like, well, that's a lot of blind faith.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there's a lot of things that I've come to find that after I was instructor or told something, I'm like, oh, we can incorporate this. You start incorporating it and you realize, man, I'm running into this and this, and you talk to them and you get into conversations, then you find out, oh, you're having the same problems. Well,
Right, yeah.
I would have been nice. Why didn't you tell me about this after you figured it all out?
Yeah.
Instead of, go work with somebody or spend your weekends with somebody for a year and see, is it really panning out? It's kind of like the pastured pigs. I wish I'd gone somewhere and saw those guys, because I know that there's some tillage going on their beloved no-till areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent advice. Spending a year there so you get to see all the seasons. And yeah, people selling you stuff or trying to convince you of stuff. What's not being said?
Being shown.
What's
in the
not
back?
being shown?
What's on that back 40 that you're not acres in the way back, that you're doing things that you're to make the ranch pay or the farm pay.
Oh, yeah.
Because your little project is up front where everybody can see it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've already told y'all, don't come visit me right now because I've got cattle open everywhere because of water issues, But then again,
right.
I try and be a little transparent about it so everyone knows what I'm doing. So, but yeah, I completely agree. Excellent advice there on both sides. So no brother can go home and say I gave better advice than the other. We're just keeping that fair there. Our last question, where can others find out more about you?
Oh, Cascade Sheep and Cattle Company is our website where we sell our grass-fed meats. Yeah, my wife does some things updating on some of that on our Cascade Sheep and Cattle.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you could go and look at, and that's it. There's an email and phone numbers on that if they were interested in any questions or want to talk to either one of us. That's definitely a way of finding us.
I know, and either of us are pretty candid about our failures. Neither one of us look to hide any of our debacles at all, because honestly, I think that's the sad case on many of these situations is that stuff is hidden or not talked enough about it. That's where we learn the most. what's truly where we learn the most is our frustrating failures.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's what Gabe Brown said, right?
oh yeah, you're
Got to
right.
fail. You need to fail at something every year.
Well,
I mean,
the truth is I don't think enough of them hear his original story about his
Oh, yeah.
massive failures of working outside the farm and look at all of the failed crops that started a process that was out of his control.
Oh,
and
yeah.
feeding his soil. Like he wasn't even making the plan to try to like, go into this cover cropping.
Yeah.
The hail and all the storms made him do it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is really important to remember those things.
Every year, about the end of May, I think I'm a great grazer. So you got to run into some problems so you can get better. Yeah, that's the only way. Don't listen to someone who's just been grazing in May.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I told this on the podcast some episode ago. There's a guy next to me on some lease property I have that he just bought the land. And I had a heifer get over on him, which was just odd, across the road. And typically I don't have cattle that like to go to other pastures because I don't like getting them out of other pastures.
Yeah.
And so I go over and I meet with him. I'm talking. He's got like 6 cows out there and he's got like a dozen in his corral. And he's like, yeah, just bought these. And he says, I'm leaving them in the corral for a couple of days, just get them used to it, and then I'll turn them out. He's like, how many more cows should I buy? And I said, let's stop right here and see what your grass does over here. I said, I think is late April. It may have been early May. I said, this is the best it's going to look all year. So let's graze what you have. Don't buy any more. I think you got plenty. And let's see how it responds. Yeah. Gotta be careful about that, what it looks like in May.
Oh, man.
The words about the truth.
Yeah. Well, Tyler
Yeah,
and
very-
Justin, I really appreciate you all coming on and sharing today. I've enjoyed the conversation. I think our listeners will enjoy it.
Thanks.
You bet. Thanks, Cal. Enjoyed it.
I really hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I know I did. Thank you for listening. And if you found something useful, please share it. Share it on your social media. Tell your friends. Get the word out about the podcast. Helps us grow. If you happen to be a grass farmer and you'd like to share about your journey, go to grazinggrass.com and click on Be Our Guest. Fill out the form and I'll be in touch. We appreciate your support by sharing our episodes and telling your friends about it. You can also support our show by buying our merch. We get a little bit back from that. Another way to support the show is by becoming a Grazing Grass Insider. Grazing Grass Insiders enjoy bonus content, monthly Zooms, and discounts. You can visit the website, grazinggrass.com, click on support, and they'll have the links there. Also, if you haven't left us a review, please do. It really helps us as people are searching for podcasts. And I was just checking them, and we do not have very many reviews for 2024. So if you haven't left us a review, please do. Until next time, keep on grazing grass.